Welcome back. Now we're going to start the part of the workshop that's really important because it'll be the basis for testing all of our hypotheses, all of our opinions that we put on our business model canvas. And what we're talking about is customer discovery. So welcome back to the Business Plan Development Workshop, sponsored by the Workforce Solutions Rural Capital Area and the Texas Workforce Commission. And we're glad to see you back here. Thanks for joining us. Well, let's get started and go to customer discovery. So customer discovery, we're trying to find out, do we have customers or not for this product or service that we're designing? Do they have a need for what we're trying to do? So this is where we are in the steps. We've already talked about some basic terms, what we're trying to do for this. We talked about the business model canvas where we put down all of our guesses, our hypotheses, and now we're at the customer discovery phase. And this is where we're going to go and do the testing of those hypotheses. So we're looking for, there's different types of fit. The first one is the very first one that we want to look at to see whether or not it's a go or no go, or if it's a pivot, okay? And that's problem solution fit. We want to see, is there a match there? And then we want to go on to product market fit and see if there's a go or no go or a pivot there. And then do we have a business fit? But before we can get anywhere to start our actual business, to actually implement our business, we have to do the problem solution fit. And the tools and techniques that I'm going to be talking with you about in this section will be applicable to the other areas as well. So what we're focusing on here at this particular module is the problem solution fit. We want to identify who are the specific customers, target market, that have a need for the product or service that we have. And again, I'm using the word need, not want. So much easier to sell to a need than it is to create the want. So what we want to do is, if we really want to get this business up and running quickly, we want to start with, where is the need? What is the need? So some buzzwords that we want to talk a little bit about: MVP, minimum viable product, does not mean that's what your product is going to be. These are just the minimum things that our customer is thinking about. But that might mean, just because that's the minimum, that's not what we want to match. We want to make sure that we're meeting or exceeding that minimum viable product. When we talk about the word pivot, we're not talking about restarting. It doesn't mean starting from scratch. It just means we're modifying which direction that we're going. We have a fork in the road and we decide to go a little bit direction. But it doesn't mean that we scrap everything else that we've done if we're doing a pivot. A no-go means scrapping everything and starting all over. A pivot means that we just need to modify or tweak the way that we've been thinking that our business really is going to work. And customer discovery does not mean selling. We're not selling our business, our product, our service when we're doing the customer discovery. I know you're not going to, when we're doing customer discovery, you do not get to talk about your baby. When you're going out to listen to people. You want to hear what it is that they have to say. What are the problems they're having? What kind of solutions are they doing in order to meet these problems? That's what we're doing. Customer discovery is all about listening, not talking. So this is what we're doing. On our business model canvas that you have now developed, we came up with some hypotheses or guesses of what we thought they were for all the 9 boxes. Right now, we're just focusing on the target market and the value proposition boxes. So we're just saying, right now, we think this is the value that this target market has. That's our hypotheses that we have. That's what we're going to try to test. Then we're going to design the experiment. And we're going to talk about how to do that in here in just a minute. But how do we test that that target market has that value? That is the value that they need. How are we going to test that? So we design the experiment. Then we're going to go out and we're going to actually test it. We're going to go talk to people. We're going to find out what their problems are and how they're solving that problem, and whether or not in our mind, when we go back, we're going to go do, when we're doing the insight, we go to see whether or not our problem or our product or our service they have are satisfying that problem. So this is the steps that we're going to be following here in trying to do our customer discovery. So we treat it from a scientific standpoint. So what our goals are of customer discovery. We're either trying to validate the problem solution fit or we're trying to invalidate it. So basically what we thought, in terms of our opinion, did that really match with what the target market was telling us or not? Did they agree with us or did they tell us something new? That's important too, that we listen to both. We're going to then look to validate, to invalidate the business model component hypotheses. So we can do this for the other modules along the way. We're just going to start with the value proposition and the target market. And if we start finding that that is true, that what we're finding is true, then we're going to go out and we're going to test the other boxes in the same order that I talked about them in the Business Model Canvas webinar. We're going to do it in the same order. Then we're going to go out and we're going to test it by talking to people, going out and interviewing people. And we're going to start to test it, to begin to identify and test for that minimum viable product of what's out there. And we're not trying to get statistical relevance. We're not trying to find out, statistically, we're trying to look for trends. We're just looking for trends when we're doing our customer discovery. So what is it we want to learn? We're trying to learn what we've put already on our business model canvas in the last module. And specifically what we're trying to address at this point are these two different boxes. We want to, who do we want to learn from, our target market, and what is it we want to learn about our value propositions? Is that it? So, and our business thesis that we're trying to come up with, which is going to eventually lead us to our elevator pitches, is who is your customer? And we want to understand it as completely as possible. And what is the product or service that we're providing them? What we may think it is may not be what the customer thinks. We want to be listening to them. And why will they buy? Why will they buy? Well, that's the value that we're providing them, not the features. The features deliver the value. So that's what we're looking at here. So these are the two that we're going to be focusing on the most. So we're just going to isolate those two for right now while we're going through and doing this testing. So what are you going to do? How do we do this testing? How do we design the experiment that we would like to work on? And that's where we come to this next slide, is that you're going to have to get out of the building. We want you to get out of your comfort zone. We want you to get out and talk with potential customers and ask them about their problems in a particular area. We want you to talk with them and have a conversation with them. And what we're trying to find out when we're talking about them, what are the things that they want? What are some of the values that they're talking about? Are they looking for something that new, like an iPhone, right? iPhone, when it first came out, that was really new and unusual to have apps. Remember, was there 11 apps, 9 apps when we first got started? How customized? Is it the price they're looking at? Are they looking for risk reduction? What is it that they're looking for? What words do they say as we talk to these potential customers, as we talk to the target market? What is it that they want? What words do they use? We don't want to tell them what to say, but we want you to get out and talk to them. Now, because of COVID, you're not going to be able to do a lot of face-to-face. Yes, as the vaccines are coming out, that may change, but right now we want to keep you safe while you're doing your target market analysis, you're doing your discovery analysis. So this is, we want you to get out of the building. We want you to talk to people. It's about you talking and having conversations with potential target market. That's what we want to do. And then the way of doing it, so how are you going to do it now in the day of COVID? So in the day of COVID, it's not always safe to go out and talk to people face to face. So there are other ways of having these interviews, of scheduling them. So you might be using Zoom, you might be using Google Chat, you might be using FaceTime, but we want to when you go out and do these interviews, it's important to try to do it face-to-face. And face-to-face means on Zoom or in Teams or Google Chat or WebEx, whatever it takes, but try to do these interviews when you're talking with people so that you can see their face, you can see their expressions as they're talking about. So who do you want to learn from? Well, you want to talk to people that are not family members or bestie friends, right? You don't want to do that. What do you want to learn? You want to learn about what their problems are. This is kind of funny. I love this packaging. One time I was working with a young man in my class, business plan development class, and he was so worried about what the uniforms of the people were going to be wearing that were going to be on his team that he didn't want to focus on anything else. So we don't want to change the focus about what it is that we want to talk about. We want to talk about them and what it is. So what do we want to learn? We do not sell. When you go out and you're doing your hypotheses, you are not out there to sell your product, your baby. You're there to listen about their problems and their solutions. You want to ask open-ended questions because you want to have a discussion. You want to have a conversation with people. And you're going to create a script. It is not a guide. It is not a survey. It's just to help you get those questions started. Because again, we're trying to have a conversation with them to really learn and listen from them. And we want to get stories. Tell me about a time that you had this problem, because we can hear about what they really did. How did they actually solve the problem that they had? Don't get speculation about what you think or what they think they might do. For instance, you can ask me, do you eat healthy? Well, you know what I'm going to tell you? Yes, I eat healthy. But how do we find out if I really eat healthy? Tell me about what you ate in the last 2 days. Well, if I tell you what I ate, then you can decide whether or not it was healthy or not, right? So we want to find out, what did they eat? What were the problems they had? How did you solve that current problem that you had? And when they start to talk with you about what their problem is, ask them why. And be that like almost annoying 3-year-old that always says, why? Why? Keep asking for, try to really dig down deep about why they solved a problem a particular way. And so how do you find the who? You wanted at least 1 degree of separation. So you can ask family and friends for people that they would like to introduce you to, but you do not want to interview family and friends because they're going to tell you what you want to hear. And that's not what we want. We want to talk to other people that could possibly be the people that are going to give you the money and buying your items, buying the product or service that you're trying to offer. Somebody, ask them for referrals. Ask them, is there somebody else that you think that I need to talk to? That should be your very last question whenever you set up an interview. Get creative. Recruiting hacks. Get creative. For instance, I had a young man that was wanting to start a business plan of a convenience store. So what did he do? He actually went out and he went to convenience stores and stood outside convenience stores in different types of locations to ask people, why are you stopping here? What was the reason for your stop here today? Why did you want to stop here? And what he found out is that people were stopping because of convenience, because this convenience store had a particular food item that they had that they can't get anyplace else, or on their way for work or whatever. But they looked at the target market. Where was that convenience store located? What was the demographics of that area? And what was that demographics looking for in a particular convenience store? And that gave them a lot of information. Fish where the fish are. Convenience store, like the example that I was giving. Go where they go. Find out. Don't just talk with people that you think might go to a convenience store. Ask the people that actually go to the convenience store. Promise to be brief. Do not, if you say, do you mind if I have a few minutes of your time? May I have 3 minutes of your time? May I have 7 minutes of your time? Depending on the type of problem that you're asking about. But promise to be brief and keep it brief. And And when you reach that 3 minutes, 7 minutes that you've promised them, say, I know I've reached the 7 minutes. I know that your time is valuable. Do you mind if I ask you one more question? If they say yes, great. If they say no, thank them for the time and move on. But play the student researcher card. Tell people, I'm taking this workshop. I'm trying to learn more about customer discovery. Would you mind taking some time to let me talk to you? I'm trying to learn more about this problem. Use that card. You're taking this workshop for a reason. You want to learn more. So let them know this is why you're doing it, that you want to find out more about the problem. And thoughts about enterprise customers, you're not talking to a business, you're talking to people. So if you think that, I don't know, you think that Google is going to be one of your customers, who in Google makes those decisions about buying your product or service? That's who. We talk to people. We don't talk to businesses. So even though you think that you're a business to business, who in that other business do you need to talk to in order to make that sale? So we're always looking for the people that make those decisions, that influence that decision. And how to ensure that you have an effective interview. And these are some of the thoughts that you need to be thinking about. Beware of confirmation bias, that you're just listening for what you wanted to hear. Are they just saying, you hear that part, but you don't hear the rest of it? Make sure you listen to their whole story. Be very open to everything that they have. When you're doing the interviews, make sure you only interview one person at a time. Others, you might get groupthink, or people might go in other tangents. We really want to hear about that one person's experience. Get subjects to tell a story. Tell me a story about the time you had a problem in this particular area. Tell me about what you did. How did you solve that problem? Because we want to hear about their experience and what they did do, not what they thought they would do if they had that problem. Look for solution hacks. They're just telling you what they think you want to hear. Make sure you ask questions about it. Try to understand what their priority is in making a decision. Not what you think it should be, but what's the priority that they have in this particular area. And you want to keep following your nose. You keep asking those why questions because you want to get down to the basics. Why did they have that particular problem? Why did they select that solution? Because why they selected that solution is important to you. Was it convenience? Was it price? Was it whatever it might be, color? Was it something? What is it? That's going to help us out when we're trying to get to our competitor analysis. So we want to find out the why in there. And you want to listen. Do very little talking. Do mostly listen. Just listen to what they have to say. And then if you can, when you're interviewing people, try to have somebody else with you to take notes. If you're doing it by yourself, then write up your notes immediately after, not during, but immediately after. And if you are doing it on Zoom or some other computer-based video, ask if you can record their answers. If they say no, then don't. So make sure you honor that. So how do you develop the right value proposition? So when you're trying to come up with these guesses that you're going out to interview, to talk with potential target market about their value proposition, you want to make sure that you use the QRST method. Q, you want to make sure it's quantifiable. Whatever you think that value is, how do you quantifiable? You want it to be something that you can measure. Is there pain in cost, time, opportunity cost? Is it a gain, a revenue, time consuming? We want it to be measurable. How much time do they need to save before it's important to them? How much cost do they have to save before it's important to them? So we want to get it as precise as we can and relevant. You're relevant. The product might be able to do it. Your customer might be interested in the relief or recreation. Make sure it's relevant to your product, to what it is that you're trying to do. Because if it isn't, then it's not helping you. So make sure that value proposition that you're working with, that you're designing off of your business model canvas, make sure it's relevant and be specific. Be concise as you possibly can. Don't talk in general terms, huge, large, lots. Be specific. What is it that they're trying to do, and testable? Is it something that you can say is true or false? Is it a go? Is it a no-go? So the most important part of we're doing customer discovery is that we're trying to validate through multiple customer interviews, that we're looking for trends, and that what we've stated as our value proposition is really what our target market wants, that we have defined their needs, what their hair on fire problems are. So some gain creators. What are the required gains? What is the solution? For instance, a smartphone, it must be able to make a phone call, right? It still needs to do that. We still, as an iPhone user, we expect to see, we see the sleek design, the elegance in the other products, but we need to make sure it does these other things as well. Does it have our schedule on it? Does it do those things? What are the desires? So that we have required gains and desired gains. What are the expected, the must have, that we basically have to have this or we're not going to use it? And what are the unexpected parts that we didn't think about that a customer wants? We're going to try to listen to make sure we get all of that during our interviews. Some of the painkillers that we've got to think about, is it functional? Doesn't work well, has negative side effects that we hadn't thought about when we were using it. So maybe you get a rash from using a particular cream, something of that sort. Emotional, is there an emotional response to that problem and solution that they have? Listen for those types of things. What else do they say? You know, like, is there something you hadn't thought about? Yeah, I'm trying to open a gym, but people go to the gym and it's kind of boring when it's raining because we're using the same path. What can we do to make it more, less boring? What can we do to make it more fun and entertaining for them? We have different pictures that rotate as they're running around, you know, something of that sort. What are some of the major obstacles that our target market has in trying to solve this problem that they have, or ones that we might have? And what risks do you have to face when you're trying to go into this market for this target market, to have them switch from what they are currently doing? So pro tips when you're trying to do these interviews, what's very important is that you practice trying to do those 3 opening questions with friends and family. That's the time you can question them to see how they answer it. Are you getting the information that you need to test that hypothesis of that value proposition for that target market? Don't start with your dream customer. Practice to become experts at interviewing before you get to whoever you think your dream customer might be. And flatter people as you're talking to them. Remind them that this is very important and thank them for their time. Time is money. Time is a resource that once they give it to you, they can't get it back. So thank them for their time. Thank them for giving you the information to talk about their problems. Thank them for their honesty. Make sure that you show gratitude for the time they have given you. And be transparent. Don't make sure you tell them you're just trying to find out about the problems. You're not selling them on your idea. And if they ask you what research you're doing, you just say, I don't know what my product or service is going to be, because you don't know. Honestly, you don't know until you've been through this process as to exactly what it is that you're going to be doing. So, and then follow up at the end. You know, do you mind if I follow up with more questions? Because as you go through the business model canvas and you're trying to test other hypotheses, you might want to go back and talk with them about these other hypotheses that you have to get clarification on it. And make sure you write up your key insights right away. Here is a great resource for you to help you with your customer discovery. And I know that this is really out of your comfort zone of going out and doing these interviews, but it is such an integral part of starting a business to find out if there is a go or no go at this phase. Get yourself out of your comfort zone, get out and talk to potential customers. And this book, Talking to Humans, is available to you in the resources for this, and you can go through and read it. But here are the highlights of that. There are 12 things that we're trying to get through. Make sure when you interview one person at a time, no groups. You don't want group thinking. You want one person at a time. Know what goals you have. What value proposition are you trying to test ahead of time before you go to see them, and have questions that are going to support finding out if that's a value proposition that they want for a particular problem. Separate behavior and feedback in discussion. What were their behaviors and what was their decision-making process? Try to see if you can understand what's going on with what they're saying, and get psyched to hear things you don't want to hear, because this is the time to do it. Before you put a lot of time and money into your business, this is the time that you want to hear that this is not going to work. This is the time to do it. And make sure you show gratitude. Make sure you say thank you for your time. People are giving you something very valuable. Time is a resource you can't get back. And if people are taking the time to talk to you, show gratitude and thank them for that. Make sure you're asking open-ended questions, no true false questions, no multiple choice, no fill in the blank, no survey type of questions. Ask them open-ended questions and listen to what they have to say. And then focus on actual behavior, not what they think they're going to do. Don't ask, well, do you eat healthy? Well, of course I'm going to say yes. But instead, tell me about what you've been eating the last 2 days. Tell me about your eating habits. Listen. Make sure you're listening to the answers. And follow your nose. Keep drilling down. Ask those why questions. Why? And then sometimes parrot back what they had to say. What was it they said? And say, make sure you understand, and maybe misrepresent what they said to see how they change it, to see what else is going on, to keep that conversation going. And ask for introductions at the end. The very last question should be, who else should I be talking with about this problem? Is there anybody you can introduce me to? And then write up your notes as quickly as possible after it's over. And again, we're trying to look for patterns. We're looking for patterns or trends and what different customers have to say about a particular problem. So value proposition and customer segments, in summary, this is our hypotheses. What we're saying is, here is what we thought. Experiment, so this is what we did. We went out, we asked people questions, results, and this is what we found. And this is how we modified our value proposition. And then if we modified it, then we will go out and test it again to see if that pattern continues or not. And this is what we're going to do next. So the whole time we're going through this process, and right now we're just focusing on the customer segments and the value proposition, but you can do this with all the other boxes on this, doing the same process. So remember, when you're looking through and doing this, you want to have clear and specific customer segments. You want to get down to the archetype, as much demographics, as much details as you can. How many kids do they have? What type of activities do they like to do? What TV shows do they watch? How old are they? What are their demographics? We want to get as much specifics as we can about that target market, really understand who they are. And then we want to make sure that we're doing the value proposition as quantifiable, relevant, and specific and testable as possible. And we're looking for that problem solution fit. So in summary, talking to customers, what do customers have to do with our products? This is probably the most difficult part of being an entrepreneur, is doing this section. I highly encourage you to do this, because the more work you do in this area, the better chances of success you're going to have in starting your business. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. And I look forward to hearing from you.